Hey, third grade. Welcome to our next purpose as readers. The first purpose is I can summarize the text. Our second purpose is I can identify key details to determine the main idea. I love both of these I can statements because they all tie in very nicely together. We're going to learn how those tie in nicely together. Here's our essential question. What do we know about Earth and its neighbors? So that's what we have been working on this past week, and we have been reading expository text to learn about Earth and its neighbors, the moon, the sun, other planets. Here is your to-do. Watch this mini lesson, read and record Destination Saturn. You will have time to complete this on Wednesday and Thursday, and then complete your workbook page for your key details and main idea graphic organizer. So in order to find the main idea, we have to ask, how do I find the main idea? Well, we're going to use the headings. The headings in the text are those expository text features that give us a clue to what the section is going to be about. Then we're going to use key details in each section. So we're going to connect the sentences to the headings. We're going to think about repeated ideas. What ideas is the author repeating that connects to those headings? And we're going to ask ourselves, who or what is this section mostly about? And so what about that subject? We did this when we read our expository text, A Natural Beauty, about the Grand Canyon. We close read the section exploring the canyon. So again, we thought about the heading, exploring the canyon. And then as we read these two paragraphs, we thought about the key details that connect to the heading. Who is exploring the canyon? What do we see when we explore the canyon? And then we asked ourselves, who is this section mostly about? Well, we have people. So what about the people? Here's a key detail. People hike the trails and take boat rides down the river. We have people. We substituted in the pronoun they. They like to gaze across the massive red and brown cliffs. And nature lovers is our other who or what. So what about nature lovers? Come to see animals and plants. So who or what do all of these details have in common or repeat? People. So what about the people? Well, if we connect it back to that heading, they're exploring the canyon. These are all details that show the people are exploring the canyon. So we were able to develop a main idea. Many people like to explore the Grand Canyon for different reasons. The main idea and key details are what help us to summarize this section of the text. So we can use, again, the heading and the key details that all connect to determine who or what this section's about, and so what about that subject. Once we identify the main idea and all the key details, we use those to summarize, to retell that section. So again, I can summarize the text. I can identify key details to determine the main idea. What do we know about Earth and its neighbors? Let's go back into the text. So on Monday, we read Earth and its neighbors for the gist and to identify features of the genre. So if you still need to read this text for the gist, go back and read it and listen to the Monday video before participating in this lesson. Then come back to this video. That way your brain already has the gist of the text. Now we're going to close read the section, Satellites, A Step Closer. we're going to use this heading to help us identify key details. And we're going to be thinking, who or what is this section mostly about? So what about that subject, the who or what? So we're going to read it for the gist again, and then we're going to reread it to identify those key details. So the heading always gives us a clue to what the section is going to be about. So this section must be about satellites, and a step closer must mean that we're going to be learning about space via satellites. We're going to be learning about space through the satellites. In 1958, scientists launched Explorer 1, the first American satellite into space. It was an exciting day for America. Soon, many satellites circled the globe and took photographs of Earth, the moon, stars, and other planets. They collected a large amount of information. Satellites even tracked the temperature on the planet Saturn. Scientists have learned many things about the solar system from satellites. That's why they kept sending more into space. Soon, there were hundreds of satellites in space making amazing discoveries, but astronomers wanted to know even more. That's why they found a way to put a man on the moon. Explorer 1 takes off. So as I was reading that section, I used the heading to help me to identify who or what that section is mostly about. And the who or what keeps repeating itself. This means again and again. It's showing up again and again. So who or what is this section mostly about? Satellites. Well, let's identify a key detail. So what about the satellites? Well, let's see. Here it said many satellites circled the globe and took photographs of Earth, the moon, stars, and other planets. So who or what? Satellites. And so what about the satellites? It took pictures of the Earth, the moon, stars, and other planets. They collected a large amount of information. Who or what? Satellites. What did satellites do? Collected a large amount of information. Satellites even tracked the temperature on the planet Saturn. Who or what? Satellites. So what about satellites? They even tracked the temperature on planet Saturn, so they could see, scientists could see how cold or warm Saturn is by using satellites. Okay, I'm going to pause and I'm going to record my key details that just inform me of who or what this section's about, that connects to the heading, satellites, and so what about satellites? So again, I can identify key details to determine the main idea. So the strategies that I'm going to use the heading. What am I going to use? You got it, the heading. I'm going to ask who or what is this section about? The what is satellites. And I'm going to ask myself, so what did the key details tell me about satellites? Satellites, that's my who or what, take photographs of Earth, the moon, stars, and planets. Here's more information about the satellites. Satellites collect large amounts of information that's directly from the text. They collected a large amount of information. Satellites have tracked temperatures on Saturn. So now I have to ask myself as a reader, who or what do all of these details have in common? They all have satellites. Are there any other who's or what's in this section? I'm going to go and read on in the last paragraph. Scientists have learned many things about the solar system from satellites. There's another who or what. Satellites. There's also scientists. And if we connect scientists and satellites and explain so what about scientists and satellites, we can say scientists learn about space from satellites. Sometimes the authors give us the main idea directly in the text. And it's usually in the last paragraph because that last paragraph is wrapping that section up, a conclusion. That's why they kept sending more into space. Soon there were hundreds of satellites in space making amazing discoveries, but astronomers wanted to know even more. That's why they found a way to put a man on the moon. So I'm going to elaborate on my who or what, because who is using these satellites? Scientists. So who or what are my scientists and satellites? So what? My scientists are learning about space by using satellites. They're learning through the photographs. They're learning through the information. They're learning about the temperatures. So let's record that main idea. Who or what and so what. Satellites teach scientists many things about space. We have just met our purpose. We have identified key details to determine the main idea. Now, how did we do that? Let's go back to our anchor chart. You can do this same thing on your Google Slides. We use the headings. Those headings are very, very important in this expository text to help you determine the main idea. We use key details in each section. We connected the sentences to that heading. Who or what were the repeated ideas? Satellite and scientist. We asked again and again, who or what is this section about? And then we asked, so what about those who's or what's? This main idea connects directly to our heading. Satellites, satellites. A step closer, that is learning or being taught many things about space. That's the step closer. Now we can use this main idea and key details to summarize this section. So we can say the section Satellites, a Step Closer informs us as the reader that satellites teach scientists many things about space, such as the photographs of Earth, the moon, stars, and planets. We learn large amounts of information. We also learn the temperatures on Saturn. We just summarized that section. Third graders, it's your turn now. Go ahead and read and record your text and complete your graphic organizer using complete sentences. Remember, the heading is very important. Ask yourself, who or what is this section about? So what about this who or what? Good luck and have fun learning.